What if the most dangerous shows you never saw were erased before you could remember them? The 1960s glow with moon landings and Beatles mania, but beneath the surface lurked television so volatile it vanished overnight. Studios panicked, governments watched, critics retreated, families changed channels, and audiences never knew what hit them. These are the forgotten 15, the broadcasts that broke every rule and disappeared forever. Number 15, Turnon, 1969. It lasted 26 minutes. That was its entire lifespan. One broadcast, one commercial break, one national trauma. ABC billed Turnon as the ultimate sketch comedy revolution. They promised laughter without limits. They delivered a broadcast so raw, it collapsed a network in real time. The premise seemed simple. A computer-generated woman named Bonnie would introduce comedy sketches that pushed every boundary. No laugh track, no warm-up. Just rapid-fire satire about politics, race, and the hypocrisy of middle America. The show opened with a joke about birth control. It followed with a cartoon about a talking uterus. Then came the marionettes in suggestive positions. The final sketch featured a man and woman discussing their affair while their child watched television in the next room. The controversy was instant. Switchboards at ABC melted. 10,000 angry callers jammed the lines. One Colorado Springs station pulled the plug mid-broadcast and replaced it with a church sermon. The Catholic Church issued a statement. The FCC launched an investigation. Sponsors fled so fast they left skid marks. A Colgate executive famously said, "We don't sell toothpaste to anarchists." Behind the scenes, the chaos was even worse. Producer George Schlatter had fired the entire writing staff 3 days before air. He replaced them with improvisation artists from the committee. Tim Conway, the host, was reportedly drunk during the taping. The network censors had approved the script, but nobody had seen the final edit. When ABC President Leonard Goldenson watched the tape 24 hours before broadcast, he reportedly threw his coffee cup through a window. But it was too late. The promos had run. The slot was locked. The aftermath was complete erasure. ABC erased every master tape. They paid Tim Conway to never speak of it publicly. The writers scattered. For 30 years, the show existed only as legend. Then a single kinescope surfaced in a Cleveland basement. Bootleg copies spread among comedy nerds. Today it lives on YouTube where it feels almost quaint. But in 1969, it was a cultural atom bomb. Some broadcasts aren't meant to be remembered, but Turnon refuses to die. Number 14, The New People, 1969. Aaron Spelling wanted to capture the youthquake. He created a show about teenagers rebuilding society. It aired right after The Mod Squad. It died faster than you can say generation gap. The premise was stark. A plane load of young people crashes on a deserted Pacific island. They are the survivors of a doomed youth conference. Their adult chaperones die in the crash. The teenagers discover a secret U.S. government supplies depot. Food, medicine, weapons. They must build their own civilization without adults, without rules, without the corruption of the establishment. The controversy began immediately. CBS censors panicked over the pilot episode. The teenagers discover automatic rifles in the depot. They hold a democratic vote on whether to keep them. They decide they need guns to survive. This was 6 months after the Manson family arrests. Network executives saw blood in the water. Parents groups called it a blueprint for juvenile delinquency. The Department of Education sent warning letters to schools. Behind the scenes, the production mirrored the chaos. The network demanded 7 rewrites of the pilot. They fired the original showrunner, who had written it as a serious Lord of the Flies drama. They hired a sitcom writer to add jokes. The cast were all unknowns. They lived in real isolation on the set. 2 actors suffered breakdowns. A third vanished for 3 days and was found wandering the Paramount lot in character. Ratings dropped 30% after the first episode. Sponsors threatened to quit. The aftermath was a quiet burial. CBS canceled it after 17 episodes. They burned the promotional materials. They erased most tapes. The actors returned to obscurity. For decades, it was mentioned only in TV history footnotes. Then streaming services resurrected it. Today, it stands as a strange artifact. A network trying to understand a generation it feared. Sometimes the future arrives too early, and the new people paid the price. Number 13, Coronet Blue, 1967. It asked one question: who are you? The answer never came. CBS launched this mystery series with a cryptic premise. They canceled it before the mystery could unfold. The show was too intelligent for its own time. Frank Converse played an amnesiac spy. He awakens in an alley with no memory. He has only 2 words: Coronet Blue. He is being hunted by shadowy figures. He assumes identities. He solves crimes while searching for his past. The show was a thinking man's thriller. It moved slowly. It demanded attention. It offered no easy answers. The controversy was subtle but deadly. The FBI visited the set after the 3rd episode. The storyline touched on government mind control experiments. This was too close to MKUltra rumors. CBS standards and practices demanded cuts. They removed 6 minutes from episode 4. They blurred the name of a fictional agency that looked too much like the CIA. Producer Leonard Goldberg received anonymous calls warning him to stop production. Behind the scenes, the chaos was intellectual. Writer Larry Cohen fought with network executives daily. He wanted a series-long arc. They wanted procedural reset buttons. The cinematographer used experimental film techniques. The footage looked too dark for television screens. Test audiences hated it. Ratings fell below 20%. Sponsors called it pretentious. The aftermath became a legend. The show aired only 13 episodes. CBS destroyed the master tapes. They claimed a storage fire. Fans suspected unexpected suppression. 20 years later, a fan found a complete set of kinescopes in a Kansas warehouse. The ending remained unresolved. The show became a cult obsession. Academics wrote papers about its postmodern structure. Some questions are meant to haunt us forever. Coronet Blue never gave its answer. Number 12. The Double Life of Henry Phyfe, 1966. It was get smart without the laughs. NBC needed a spy comedy to compete. They created a show about an accountant forced to impersonate a dead agent. It lasted 4 months. It vanished without a trace. The premise seemed promising. Red Buttons played Henry Phyfe. He is a timid bookkeeper. The government recruits him to pose as a master spy who looks identical. He must fool enemy agents. He must survive assassination attempts. He must maintain his normal life. The show combined slapstick with genuine tension. It aired against Gomer Pyle. It never stood a chance. The controversy started with the name. Henry Phyfe sounded too much like a real CIA operative stationed in Berlin. The agency sent a formal complaint. NBC changed the spelling. Then the real trouble began. Episode 3 featured a plot about a foreign leader being poisoned at a state dinner. 3 days after filming, the news broke about a real attempted poisoning at a diplomatic event. The State Department called NBC executives. They accused the show of being a security leak. Behind the scenes, the chaos was financial. The show cost a fortune in location fees. They built a replica of the United Nations for episode 2. They never used it again. Red Buttons fought with directors over his character's stupidity. He wanted Henry to be competent. They wanted a bumbling fool. The writers quit after 6 episodes. NBC hired a new team who had never written comedy. The laugh track was added in post-production. It mismatched every joke. The aftermath was a total wipeout. NBC canceled it after 17 episodes. They erased the tapes for tax write-offs. The replica UN set was destroyed. Red Buttons refused to discuss the show for decades. It became a blank space in television history. Today, only 6 episodes survive in private collections. They show a series struggling to find its identity. Sometimes being a copy means you disappear faster. Henry Phyfe learned that lesson. Number 11. The Tammy Grimes Show, 1966. She was Broadway royalty. Television ate her alive. ABC gave Tammy Grimes her own sitcom. They pulled it after 4 episodes. The show became a cautionary tale. Tammy played a free-spirited heiress with a pet lion. She inherits a department store. She runs it her way. She wears couture gowns to board meetings. She feeds her lion caviar. She helps employees with their love lives. The show was designed as a sophisticated comedy for adults. It aired at 8:30 p.m. Families were confused. Children were frightened by the lion. The controversy was immediate and brutal. The pilot episode featured Tammy swimming in the store's fountain with minimal attire. ABC censors missed it in the final cut. Broadcast Standards received 4,000 complaints. The network digitally painted a swimsuit onto the film for episode 2. It looked absurd. The Humane Society investigated the lion's treatment. They found no abuse but generated bad press. The National Association of Department Stores threatened a boycott. They claimed the show insulted American business. Behind the scenes, the chaos was legendary. Tammy Grimes demanded a real lion for authenticity. The producers rented a 40-year-old circus animal named Sultan. He refused to roar on cue. His trainer was an alcoholic who disappeared during taping. The set designers built a penthouse apartment on stage 17. It cost more than the entire budget for the Donna Reed show. The writers were Broadway playwrights who had never written a sitcom. Their scripts ran 60 pages long. Each episode required 40 rewrites. The director quit after the pilot. He said working with the lion was safer than working with Tammy. The aftermath was instant erasure. ABC canceled the show after 4 episodes aired. They paid Tammy $200,000 to keep quiet. Sultan the lion went to a sanctuary in Nevada. The penthouse set was demolished overnight. The tapes were stored in a vault and eventually degaussed for reuse. For 30 years, the show was considered a myth. Then a complete set of kinescopes surfaced in a private collection in Switzerland. They revealed a strange, charming mess. A show too sophisticated for its slot and too weird for its star. Sometimes talent alone cannot save a disaster. Tammy Grimes learned that the hard way. Number 10. The Second 100 Years, 1967. It was a comedy about time displacement, but the show itself got lost in time. ABC launched this high-concept sitcom with a blockbuster budget. They canceled it after 26 episodes. The premise was impossible to explain in 30 seconds. Monte Markham played Luke Carpenter. He was a prospector frozen in an Alaskan glacier in 1900. A scientific expedition thaws him out in 1967. He is perfectly preserved. He is also 100 years old. He moves in with his identical-looking grandson. Both are played by Markham. The comedy came from culture clashes. The old-time values versus the swinging 60s. The network called it a surefire hit. The controversy was confusion. Test audiences could not understand the dual role. They thought the grandson was the frozen man in different clothes. ABC demanded a laugh track to explain the jokes. It made everything worse. Episode 5 featured Luke attending a love-in. He called the hippies lazy and immoral. Real hippies protested outside ABC studios. They threw frozen fish at the executives. Behind the scenes, the chaos was scientific. The makeup department created separate prosthetic faces for Luke and his grandson. It took 4 hours to apply. Monte Markham worked 16-hour days. He suffered a breakdown after episode 12. He started speaking in 1800 slang off camera. The writers could not decide on a tone. One week it was social satire. The next, it was slapstick. The director of photography Murphy used ice blue filters for Luke's scenes. ABC executives said it looked too cold. They ordered warm lighting. The visual distinction vanished. The aftermath was a frozen burial. ABC pulled the show during January sweeps. They claimed low ratings, but Monty Markham later revealed network panic over the social commentary. The tapes were erased to make room for the Mod Squad. For decades, only a few episodes survived in Markham's personal vault. He refused to release them. He called the show his frozen embarrassment. In 2010, a complete set was discovered in a Canadian archive. It shows a series ahead of its time, a show about generational disconnect that disconnected itself. Sometimes being too clever means nobody gets the joke. The second 100 years was too clever by a century. Number 9. It's About Time, 1966. Sherwood Schwartz created Gilligan's Island. He thought he had another winner. He was wrong. It's About Time sent astronauts back to the Stone Age. It lasted one season, then it vanished. The premise was simple. Two astronauts travel faster than light. They go back in time. They crash in 1 million BC. They meet cave people. The cave people are stupid but lovable. The astronauts want to fix their spacecraft. They get into weekly hijinks. The show starred Frank Alletter and Jack Mullaney. The cave people were played by Imogene Coca and Joe E. Ross. It aired Sunday nights against Bonanza. It never had a chance. The controversy was educational. The National Science Teachers Association protested. They said the show taught children bad physics. They claimed it made a mockery of space exploration. This was during the Gemini missions. NASA was not amused. They sent a formal letter to CBS. The show had an episode where the astronauts teach cavemen about gunpowder. The network censors panicked. They thought it encouraged violence. They demanded the cavemen use the gunpowder to make fireworks instead. The rewrite made no sense. Behind the scenes, the chaos was prehistoric. The cave sets cost $300,000. They were built with real rocks. The actors injured themselves constantly. Frank Alletter broke his foot on a boulder. He limped through 6 episodes. The dinosaur puppets were operated by underwater cables. They short-circuited and nearly electrocuted the crew. Sherwood Schwartz fought with CBS over the laugh track. He wanted it removed. They added more. He quit after episode 15. The new producer turned it into a variety show. The astronauts sang rock songs with cavemen. The audience fled. The aftermath was extinction. CBS canceled it after 26 episodes. They erased the master tapes for a golf special. The cave sets were buried in a Los Angeles landfill. They were discovered during a construction project in 1984. The dinosaur puppets were sold to a theme park in Florida. They rotted in the sun. Only 12 episodes survive in bootleg form. They show a series drowning in its own ambition, a show about time travel that ran out of time. Sometimes the past should stay buried. It's About Time proved it. Number 8. The Girl from U.N.C.L.E, 1966. NBC had a hit with The Man from U.N.C.L.E. They wanted a female version. They created a disaster. The Girl from U.N.C.L.E lasted one season. It nearly destroyed the entire franchise. Stephanie Powers played April Dancer. She was a secret agent in mod fashion. She fought villains with perfume spray that was really tear gas. She drove a custom sports car. She had a British partner named Mark Slate. The show was designed to capture the female audience. It captured only confusion. It aired Monday nights against the Andy Griffith Show. It was dead on arrival. The controversy was feminist backlash. The National Organization for Women protested outside NBC. They claimed the show objectified female agents. They pointed to episodes where April used her beauty, not her brains. NBC standards and practices demanded rewrites. They made April more competent, but then male viewers complained she was too tough. The network could not win. Episode 7 featured April in a bikini for no plot reason. The FCC received complaints. They opened an investigation into exploitation. Behind the scenes, the chaos was global. The show filmed on the same lot as The Man from U.N.C.L.E. The actors shared dressing rooms. Robert Vaughn refused to do a crossover. He said the writing was inferior. The producers hired a male stunt double for Stephanie Powers. He broke his neck during a fight scene. The insurance costs bankrupted the budget. Writers quit weekly. They could not handle the spy jargon. The network demanded more gadgets. The gadget designer filed for bankruptcy. The show's ratings dropped to 9%. Sponsors pulled out after the Now protests. The aftermath was franchise poison. NBC canceled it after 29 episodes. They burned the scripts in a studio furnace. They erased the tapes to hide their mistake. The remaining episodes were sold to overseas markets only. They were dubbed into 18 languages. The English versions vanished. In 1992, a fan found a complete set in a Tokyo broadcast archive. They had been mislabeled as The Man from U.N.C.L.E. episodes. Today it stands as a cautionary tale, a spin-off that spun out of control. Sometimes the formula cannot be copied. The girl from U.N.C.L.E. learned that lesson in every language. Number 7. The Good Guys. 1968, Bob Denver left Gilligan's Island a legend. He returned to television a pariah. NBC gave him a new sitcom called The Good Guys. It lasted one season. It nearly ended his career. Denver played Rufus Butterworth. He was a cab driver who inherited a diner. He ran it with his best friend Bert. Bert was played by Herb Edelman. The comedy came from their schemes to get rich. The show aired Friday nights against the Wild Wild West. It was ratings poison. The critics called it Gilligan in a diner. They were right. The controversy was typecasting. CBS threatened to sue. They claimed the character was too similar to Gilligan. NBC changed Rufus from naive to cynical. The audience hated it. Episode 4 4 featured Rufus pretending to be a wealthy businessman. He wore a fake mustache. ABC sued, claiming it copied their show, The Double Life of Henry Phyfe. The networks were at war over a bad mustache joke. Behind the scenes, the chaos was desperate. Bob Denver demanded script approval. He rejected 12 pilots. The final version was his idea. He thought playing a cab driver would make him seem working class. The writers had never met a real cab driver. They wrote from watching old movies. The diner set was built on the same stage as Gilligan's Island. The coconut trees were still visible in the background. Denver drank heavily between takes. He once fell asleep during a live scene. The network added a laugh track that roared at every line. It sounded like canned hysteria. The aftermath was career ice. NBC canceled it after 24 episodes. They refused to release Denver from his contract. He was trapped doing guest spots for 3 years. The tapes were erased to make room for Rowan and Martin's laugh-in. Denver refused to discuss the show for 20 years. He called it his lost year. In 1998, a collector found one episode at a garage sale. It was recorded on a faulty Betamax. The picture was purple. Today, that purple video is the only proof the show existed. Sometimes escaping an island means drowning on mainland. Bob Denver barely survived. Number 6. The Man Who Never Was, 1966. ABC wanted their own James Bond. They got something darker. The Man Who Never Was starred Robert Lansing as a spy with no identity. He was a ghost, a cipher, a man who officially did not exist. The show lasted 1 season. It disappeared completely. The premise was chilling. Agent Peter Murphy is a master of disguise. He takes the place of dead men to complete missions. He erases their identities and assumes their lives. Each week he became someone new, a dead diplomat, a murdered scientist, a fallen soldier. The show was shot in stark black and white. It had no laugh track. It had no mercy. The controversy was psychological. The American Psychiatric Association protested. They said the show glorified dissociative identity disorder. They claimed it would confuse viewers about reality. Episode 8 featured Murphy impersonating a man whose family thought he was dead. He attended his own funeral. The network censors cut the final scene where Murphy cried genuine tears. They said it made American spies look weak. The Department of Defense sent a memo. They claimed the show revealed actual disguise techniques. ABC ignored them. Behind the scenes, the chaos was identity crisis. Robert Lansing demanded to wear his own clothes for every role. He said it helped him find the character. The wardrobe department went on strike. The writers based stories on real CIA cases. A man in a dark suit visited the studio after episode 3. He left a folder. Inside were photos of the writers' families. The stories became safer, but the ratings dropped. The network added a love interest. Lansing refused to film romantic scenes. He said a ghost cannot love. The aftermath was total erasure. ABC canceled it after 21 episodes. They erased the tapes for a Dick Cavett special. The master copies were allegedly burned in a studio incinerator. Lansing never spoke of the show again. He called it his television funeral. In 2005, a film student found a single episode in a Yugoslavian broadcast archive. It was dubbed in Serbo-Croatian. The English versions were gone. The show survived only in translation. Sometimes losing yourself means disappearing forever. The Man Who Never Was proved it. Number 5. The Pruitts of Southampton, 1966. Phyllis Diller was a comedy sensation. ABC gave her a sitcom. It lasted 3 months. They changed the title twice. Nothing worked. The show became a masterclass in failure. Diller played Phyllis Pruitt. She was a down-on-her-luck socialite. She inherited a mansion in Southampton. She had no money to maintain it. She took in boarders. The boarders were a blind composer, a wrestler, a beatnik poet. The comedy came from clashing lifestyles. The show was taped before a live audience. The audience was often silent. The controversy was class warfare. The Southampton Historical Society sued ABC. They claimed the show insulted real families. They demanded a disclaimer. ABC added a line in the credits that read, "This is fiction." The boarders protested the portrayal. The National Federation of the Blind complained about the blind composer jokes. Episode 6 featured Phyllis putting her pet mouse in the soup to avoid paying a caterer. The health department threatened to shut down ABC's cafeteria in retaliation. Behind the scenes, the chaos was royal. Phyllis Diller refused to wear the designer gowns. She wanted her trademark wild hair and housecoat. ABC said no. They compromised with expensive gowns that looked like housecoats. The mansion set was built with real antiques. A border actor broke a 17th century vase in the pilot. ABC deducted the cost from his salary. Writers quit weekly. Diller rewrote her own lines. She added references to her nightclub act. Middle America did not understand them. The laugh track operator quit. He said he could not add laughs to silence. The aftermath was title confusion. ABC renamed it The Phyllis Diller Show mid-season. Ratings dropped further. They canceled it after 17 episodes. They erased the tapes for a new game show. The mansion set was destroyed. The antique furniture was auctioned. Diller returned to nightclubs. She told audiences that television was for people who could not afford live entertainment. She never had another sitcom. Sometimes a castle built on sand sinks fast. The Pruitts of Southampton sank in 3 months. Number 4. The Lieutenant, 1963. Gary Lockwood was fresh from starring in The Pleasure of His Company. NBC cast him as a military officer. They created the first serious drama about peacetime Marines. It aired during the Cold War. It was canceled before Vietnam exploded. Lockwood played Second Lieutenant William Rice. He was a young officer at at Camp Pendleton. He trained recruits. He dealt with discipline problems. He confronted moral dilemmas. The show was shot documentary style. It used real Marine equipment. It had no laugh track. It had no easy answers. It aired Thursday nights against the Donna Reed Show. The audience was confused. The controversy was prophetic. The Pentagon provided military advisors. They reviewed every script. Episode 9 featured a recruit questioning orders. The Pentagon demanded cuts. They said it encouraged insubordination. Episode 12 showed a Marine suffering from PTSD. The Veterans Administration protested. They claimed it insulted veterans. The show was being strangled by the military it portrayed. Behind the scenes, the chaos was tactical. Gary Lockwood demanded to do his own stunts. He broke his ribs during a training exercise scene. The production shut down for 3 weeks. The real Marines used as extras were sent to Vietnam midway through filming. Their replacements looked nothing like them. Continuity became impossible. The showrunner was a former Marine. He fought with NBC over the anti-war subtext. They fired him after episode 16. The new producer had done westerns only. He added horses to the base. The ratings collapsed. The aftermath was a dishonorable discharge. NBC canceled it after 29 episodes. They claimed low ratings, but Lockwood later revealed the real reason. The Pentagon withdrew all support. They said the show was becoming too cynical. The master tapes were stored in a government warehouse. They were classified for 30 years. In 1997, a historian found them under the Freedom of Information Act. They showed a series trying to tell the truth about military life. The truth was too uncomfortable. Sometimes telling the truth means losing the war. The lieutenant lost before the real war began. Number 3, The Trials of O'Brien, 1965. Peter Falk had not yet become Columbo. He played a flamboyant lawyer named Daniel O'Brien. CBS gave him a legal drama. They wanted Perry Mason with flair. They got something stranger. The show lasted 1 season. It vanished. The premise was unusual. O'Brien was a Broadway producer turned lawyer. He wore a cape. He quoted Shakespeare in court. He defended the indefensible. The show was shot in New York City. It used real locations. It had a jazz score. It was too sophisticated for middle America. It aired Saturday nights against Jackie Gleason. The audience stayed with Gleason. The controversy was legal ethics. The American Bar Association protested. They said O'Brien's theatrical tactics mocked the justice system. Episode 5 featured O'Brien faking evidence to free an innocent man. The Bar Association demanded a disclaimer. CBS refused. They said it was fiction. The New York State Supreme Court sent a letter. They threatened to disbar any real lawyer who behaved like O'Brien. The show's consultant was a real lawyer. He quit after episode 8. He said the scripts were becoming unethical. Behind the scenes, the chaos was theatrical. Peter Falk refused to learn his lines. He improvised every scene. The other actors could not keep up. The director of photography was a French New Wave enthusiast. He filmed entire scenes in close-up of Falk's eye. CBS executives were baffled. They demanded wide shots. The director quit. The replacement used only establishing shots. The show looked like a real estate commercial. Writers were Broadway playwrights. They wrote 50-page scripts. CBS cut them to 30 minutes. The plots made no sense. The aftermath was a mistrial. CBS canceled it after 22 episodes. They erased the tapes for a hee-haw special. Falk went on to play Columbo. He used O'Brien's mannerisms. He wore the same cape in the pilot. The Trials of O'Brien was forgotten. In 2008, a complete episode was found in a projectionist's basement in Paris. It was dubbed in French. The original English version was gone. The show survived only in translation. Sometimes being too clever means nobody understands. Daniel O'Brien defended his last case alone. Number 2, Stoney Burke, 1962. Jack Lord was not yet Steve McGarrett. He played a rodeo rider named Stoney Burke. ABC gave him a Western drama. They wanted to capture the rodeo circuit for television. They captured only injuries. The show lasted 1 season. It rode into oblivion. Burke was a professional saddle bronc rider. He traveled the circuit. He competed for the Golden Buckle Championship. The show filmed at real rodeos. It used actual cowboys. It had documentary realism. It aired against the Beverly Hillbillies. The audience chose laughter over authenticity. The controversy busy was animal rights. The ASPCA investigated after episode 3. A horse broke its leg during a bronc riding scene. The episode aired anyway. The footage was brutal. Viewers called it exploitation. The Rodeo Cowboys Association threatened to sue. They said the show made their sport look barbaric. ABC demanded the animals be treated better, but real rodeo is dangerous. The show could not sanitize it. Behind the scenes, the chaos was broken bones. Jack Lord did his own writing. He separated his shoulder in episode 6. He wore a hidden brace for the rest of the series. Real rodeo clowns were hired as advisors. They got drunk and started real fights on set. A bull named Cyclone escaped during filming. He charged through the commissary. The crew hid in refrigerators. The insurance premiums exceeded the production budget. The writers knew nothing about rodeo. They wrote plots about cattle rustling and stagecoach holdups. It was 1962, not 1862. The aftermath was a final ride. ABC canceled it after 32 episodes. They claimed the insurance was too expensive. The master tapes were lost in a studio fire in 1974. The rodeo footage was the only thing that survived. It was sold to a sports film library. Jack Lord refused to discuss Stoney Burke for decades. When he booked Hawaii Five-0, he insisted on a no-riding clause. He would only ride in police cars. Sometimes authenticity is too real for television. Stoney Burke wrote rode into the sunset and never looked back. Number 1. The Asphalt Jungle, 1961. It was based on an Academy Award-nominated film. It starred Jack Warden and Arch Johnson. It was a police drama so gritty it felt like a documentary. ABC aired it for one season. Then they erased every trace. The show followed the detectives of the Major Crimes Squad in a nameless city. They dealt with murder, extortion, and drugs. They used real police procedures. They filmed in actual slums. The camera work was handheld. The lighting was natural. There were no heroes, only survivors. It aired Wednesday nights against the Danny Thomas Show. The audience chose comfort over truth. The controversy was immediate and violent. The National Association of Chiefs of Police demanded cancellation. They said the show taught criminals how to avoid detection. Episode 4 featured a safe cracking scene. Burglaries increased in 3 major cities. The FBI blamed the show. The Department of Justice sent a cease and desist letter. ABC ignored it. Episode 9 showed a corrupt police captain. The real NYPD boycotted the network. They refused to provide technical advisors. Behind the scenes, the chaos was criminal. Jack Warden was a method actor. He rode with real police for research. He was arrested during a raid. The cops thought he was a criminal. He spent a night in jail. Arch Johnson refused to carry a prop gun. He said it promoted violence. The writers were former cops. They wrote scripts based on open cases. The real detectives were furious. A stalker targeted the actress who played a police secretary. He thought she was a real officer. Security costs tripled. The aftermath was total eradication. ABC canceled it after 13 episodes. They claimed advertisers were terrified. Ford Motor Company said they could not sell cars during a show about human misery. This network erased all tapes. They said the content was too dangerous to preserve. The master copies were allegedly burned in a secure incinerator. The showrunner was blacklisted. He never worked in television again. For 40 years, the Asphalt Jungle existed only as a legend. Then in 2015, a security guard found a box in a sealed ABC vault. Inside were 13 kinescopes. The labels read, "Destroy immediately." He saved them. They are now in the Museum of Television and Radio. They show a series too honest for its time. A mirror held up to American darkness. The mirror was shattered. Some truths are too dangerous to broadcast. The Asphalt Jungle was the truth that had to die. 15 shows, 15 disasters, 15 stories that vanished from television history. They were too real, too weird, too honest, too strange. The networks tried to erase them, but memory is stubborn. These shows remind us that television was once dangerous. It once challenged us. It once failed magnificently. What forgotten treasures still lurk in studio vaults? What shows were erased before you could see them? The 60s were more than moonshots and Motown. They were a battlefield of ideas.